Well, I think I've got most of the top of the rock exposed here. I went ahead and put a hose on it and dug myself a little trench because I'm increasingly sure this is going to be a multi-day, perhaps week task. So I would say this thing's 4 times as big as I had feared that it would be at the top end. So and I'm increasingly unsure if I actually found the bottom over there when I thought it was 2.5 to 3 foot thick. The only thing I think we're going to be able to do with this guy is, well, I'd like to determine whether or not it's bedrock. It doesn't seem to want to move. Usually before John can kind of work things up and down with the pallet forks, I can usually get the metal shovel that I kind of use as a pry bar because I can't find a pry bar. I can usually get it in between the rock I'm working on and one of its neighbor rocks that is not going to move, and wiggle it and see. But I mean, if this thing is just this big and only as deep as I originally thought it was, I'm not even sure I could pull this rock with chains hooked up to the back of John. I'm not real sure. I think quite possibly the best course of action would be to probably drill into it real deep up here, maybe a foot, and put a ginormous anchor bolt with an eyelet on it in there, and maybe either try to chain John to it and see if I could pull it to kind of shake it loose, or more likely I need to figure out a way to get deep enough into the rock to start seriously hitting it with a wedge. Or, I guess I could wait for a jackhammer. But I have a feeling that even with a fairly decent jackhammer, this thing is going to be something of a nightmare. I probably should have buried it. I am lifting up this section of the lawn quite a bit, so it wouldn't have really been a big deal if I had have just said, you know what, I'm not going to mess with the rock, I'll just bury it and go on with my life. But it's uncovered now, and I know it's there, and it's going to piss me off if I give up. So it may just kind of stay here once it gets dry, and it's going to get kind of warm today, so it'll probably dry out pretty good. And all that dirt turns to dust, well, mud turns to dust, and either gets sifted through by the chickens, because every time I break ground out here, they mob the hell out of it as soon as I walk away. In fact, they had already been doing that to this when I was walking back and forth. But that'll blow off in a day or two, and then I'll be left with a really good picture of what I've got to deal with here, and then I can start digging around the sides, either by hand or with John, and get a little bit of a better look at this thing. From what it looks like here, I don't see any way for me to get the loader underneath it and do anything useful other than possibly break the damn tractor. It's huge. Even if it was only as big as this and thinner than it was, I don't think I would attempt it because it's massive. I'm not even sure this is the terminus right here. It might just dip and then go back up for all I know. The grass doesn't grow in this area hardly at all, so I'm assuming that this guy and this dirt around here is the home of many big rocks. In fact, I ran into one right here. It looks like you can dig right there, but right here I think is another rock of this size. So I don't know. It's either going to stay here or I'm going to need to break it up. There's really no other way I can think of to do anything useful with this rock other than bury it, and that might be what I end up having to do. But I've been working on it. You can kind of see right here, there's a whole ton of itty bitty tiny little masonry bit holes up and down this thing, and I was trying to go all the way down the top of it and then get a wedge in there, And the rock is very soft. It's limestone. Um, it was nothing to do that with a bit, but I don't have a bit that's long enough. I think the one I've got is 6 or 7 inches tops of cutting surface anyway, and this rock is feet thick. So with the way that the rocks have been breaking out here, with our kind of rocks, it would probably crack down the middle, and then when I went to break it off, it would just be like the top 2 or 3 inches. And I've actually done that with the forks on a number of rocks that didn't want to yield, but I was working on with the forks, and then they would just flip a chunk off that was, the size of 2 or 3 dinner plates, and the rock was smaller, so it was a little bit easier to get out. So I'm thinking I might be able to do that with this one, but it would just, even if it did, it would take me all day just to flip off 2-inch sections of this rock. And at some point in time, even if it did do that, which would be fine, it would probably get to the point where I would be comfortable leaving the rest of the rock in there, and then, whatever chunks I got off of it, we could haul away, and then I could bury it with all of that, and we would be fine. So that's kind of where we are. Still a little bit of a confusion right there. As you can see right here, I have a sprinkler head, and they all originate from right there. So straight line would take you right to it, but I think that's actually the terminal end of my sprinkler system, because it barely gets any pressure over there. So clearly it's not going through this rock. Well, that's today so far, other than the fact that I'm increasingly sure I broke my toe sometime last week, or the week before that, or the week before that. It was very apparent today. Good times.